So I want to welcome you to the first of many LWR conversations. What's the purpose of an LWR conversation? It's an in-depth chat for you, an exclusive way to bring programs and organizational updates to hear from our leaders and to bring you, our devoted Lutheran partners and friends, closer. And we want to do all this in less than 35 minutes, as we want to be respectful of your time. While tonight's focus is on our humanitarian work and a subject matter that is sometimes of a serious nature, as a LWR family, together we have always taken the position to respond when needed. Thank you. Because of you, we've had the opportunity to continue to respond in some of the worst disasters, effects of war, and poverty that men, women, and children face around the world. Tonight, you will hear from Pastor Tim Krick, who is a member of our congregational engagement team, about what is happening abroad and why our humanitarian response is so important to our friends in need. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend and colleague, Pastor Tim. Hey, Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Dwayne. Thanks for having me here tonight and the opportunity to share about the work that all the donors, congregations are enabling to happen around the world. As Dwayne said, I work with the congregational engagement team. So as we have those major donor advisors that you all work with, I work in a similar capacity with congregations, specifically with those in the Northeast of the country, that meaning New Jersey and up, much of the Midwest and Texas. So after tonight, if you attend a Lutheran congregation and you want to ask if your church is part of it or go to your pastor, there is a representative that relates to each part of the country. And if you let us know what the congregation is, we can connect you with the representative that works in that area or in that state. But that's what I do. I just was in Chicago last week visiting congregations. I'm preparing for a trip to Long Island coming up here in August as well. To say thank you, let me tell you what work is doing and how do we continue doing the work to the best of our capacity.
Thanks for the update and sharing some of the great things LWR is doing around congregations and showing our commitment to the church to be good stewards. Tim, thanks for sharing with us tonight. And so I've got a few questions as we spotlight some of the pictures that you have. When you got back from your trip, I gave you a phone call. You know, we were talking personally, and I just wanted to hear about your trip. And one of the things I took from just our small conversation was the emotion of what you saw in the field, both in Turkey and in Ukraine. Can you share some of that with our friends tonight?
Yeah, so I was really privileged to go with a small group to see the work that is being done both in Turkey due to the earthquake in the Thai province, and then we spent the second week in Ukraine and went into a city called Kharkiv and branched out from there. And just to see if you want to say the level of devastation, you know, this is just a very typical scene that you would see in Turkey. This is not scientific, but I would say 95% of the buildings need to be demolished if they're not already down, right? Even if they're standing, this is what the condition of many of them are like. And even if they look good enough to live in, like that one in the background, oftentimes the structural damage that you cannot see, or people are going to be really afraid to move back in due to the fact that they weren't built to withstand the kind of earthquake that they had. And so they don't want to move back into a home that is susceptible to another tragedy such as they just faced. And so so much is going to have to be demolished and rebuilt. And so it was heartbreaking to see. If you want to go to the next one also, Marina. And I thought, you know, when we moved over to Ukraine, this I thought was a very typical scene as well. And you can see the two women just walking in front of this bombed out building. Turkey, the event occurred, and now they're working to build forward from here. A lot of work to do that's going to take years, and you'll hear about it. Ukraine, the war began and it's still going on. Like, this is just a scene of daily life in which people are having to figure out, how do we live in the midst of this ongoing war, in which air raid alarms are going off nightly, going off daily. When we were there, we'd hear them go off. And one of the doctors that we saw, part of the medical mobile units, like he had said, if we had sheltered every time we heard an alarm, we would never get any work done. So it's trying to continually live our life in these kind of conditions. Marina, if you want to go to the next one. And this is just another typical scene from Turkey as well, in which all of those apartment buildings in the background are going to have to come down, and where everybody is living in these tent cities, if they didn't have a place to go to. And so as you drove through, it was tent city after tent city, and slowly moving into, as you'll see in a few moments, container city after container city. But it's a total disruption to a way of life. It's not even, it occurred and now we just have to pick up debris in our backyard, right? It is, jobs are lost, homes are lost. I don't think there was anybody we met who didn't have a loved one who died in the earthquake. And so it's just figuring out a whole new way of life together. It's really heartbreaking. One story after another that I heard, it seemed like was harder to hear than the last.
Man, just looking at these pictures, it's heartbreaking to see what people are facing. We want to respond in a way that helps people. What are some immediate needs that you heard of or you identified as you were there? What are some long-term needs that the people are asking for?
Yeah, I like the way you phrase that, immediate needs and long-term needs, because there are, people to survive the day. And I think this is really indicative of the work that Lutheran World Relief does in general. Not only how are you helping survive the day, but what are you doing now? What kind of impact is it going to have a year from now, 5 years from now? How are you setting people up for as much success going into the future as well? So one of those ways in which we're helping to meet those immediate needs, right from the beginning and continuing on, was food and hygiene packs. So this is Sunai. I really got the fortunate to meet her and her family. You can see there she is with food that we had just delivered, while I was able to go along with on the delivery, as they were going to about 20 different homes that afternoon that we were with them. And you talk about heartbreaking stories. Sunai's is one of them. Living on the second floor of the apartment building, you can see extended family in the back. In fact, the two people on the left in the background are her parents, elderly, both use canes, very slow. And they're on the first floor. The earthquake hit at 2:30 in the morning. Her and her older son, adult son, who's 19 at the time, came down, got her parents out. It's raining outside, and they found shelter in their car, and their car was shelter with heat for the next 3 days. And they spent those initial time looking for loved ones in the rubble and then sharing whatever they had. And now, what do you do going forward with stores being destroyed? Jobs are destroyed. People, aren't working. And so a way we're meeting needs immediately is by delivering food to people, and hygiene, soap, dish soap, and towels, whatever it might be. And so you see all this is non-perishable food that has, shelf stable, a long shelf life that they'll be able to feed hopefully a lot of people for a good amount of time, because Sunai is living now in an area this probably about the size of American backyard, with 15, 16 family members, extended family members, and with people coming and going. And so immediate need we are providing is simply food to help people get through the day. Long-term needs, right? You saw that slide earlier with the tent city. Long-term need, and this is a big thing we do and a big push forward, that I was so impressed out of all the projects we saw that this had been built. It's a container city. As we said, homes have been destroyed. So much has to be demolished and rebuilt, and that just doesn't happen overnight. So where are people going to live while the rebuilding occurs? Tents are only going to last so long, right? They're only designed to last a few months, not years, let alone 1 year with a winter, with no heat and anything like that. So instead, we're working with other partner organizations to help really build a tent city. And out of all the ones we saw, this one we're involved in really is the best of the best because of all the amenities that go with it. Many tent cities that we saw, they had communal bathrooms, communal showers, and each of those containers there, and the one we're building is 400 units, they each have their own bathroom. They each have a small bedroom in it, and they come furnished with a bed. They come furnished with a couch that's also a futon and an extra mattress, and they come with blankets. They come with the wardrobe. They come with the heater, a heating element. They come with an efficiency kitchen, a sink. Think like a larger dorm room refrigerator, a hot plate. And in that bathroom is a stand-up shower, a sink, and a toilet, and cleaning supplies. And then within this community, it has laundry facilities. There's 4 buildings that'll have about 10 washer dryers each for people to use. And this is all free for people to stay there. It has a community center. You can see the bigger tent right in the middle for people to gather, for kids to come together, to receive help with homework when schools resume. Electricity, you can see all these power lines that are going, electrical towers that are going. It also has a mobile industrial strength kitchen in the far right side, you can see, in which everybody in the community is receiving 1 hot meal a day. And then also through those through the organization, through that mobile kitchen, they're delivering 1 hot meal a day down into the city, because not everybody's able to get into a container city. And so some people are still in tents, and so they're delivering food out. So this is being built not just to last 1 year, but they really, when they're putting these together, it is being built to last 5-6 years, because they know that is the amount of time that it's going to take to rebuild. And that's just in Turkey. We then have in Ukraine immediate and long-term needs really in one. This is a mobile medical unit that we got to see in the town. I believe it was Balaklia, as we were based in Kharkiv, which is kind of like the north east section of Ukraine. Balaklia, it's all previously Russian occupied territory. So I forget what you would call the campaign that's coming, but it was how far. It really, when we talk about we are trying to go to the hardest reach places in the world, we are in, territory that was previously occupied by Russia just several short months ago. And this clinic is set up in this town in which the hospital was bombed, the clinics were bombed, many doctors had fled, and ones who had remained were actually killed. And the people who are left are really the most vulnerable, because they are ones who didn't have resources or connections to flee as well. And so a lot of elderly people, a lot of I would say adults with some young children. Also, just the week before, they had some moms and newborns that had received baby care kits from Lutheran World Relief. And here they can come and receive immediate need if they have something going on. And there's specialty doctors. There's a guy, OBGYN that also does ultrasounds. There's psychologists. There's cardiologists, and there's an ophthalmologist. So immediate needs, but also because of the way and the length of time that they're in a situation. One doctor was telling me that many of these units are in an area for 2 days, 3 days, a weekend. Ours is there for at least 2 weeks. And the one that we were with had been there 4 weeks and petitioned to be there 6 weeks because the needs were so great. And so the doctor was talking about they can do follow-up, they can do prescriptions for drugs that they have on hand. They can see patients a second time. And so immediate need, long-term need. I really think that is a hallmark of who we are as Lutheran World Relief, and that is what I saw continually during my time in Turkey and Ukraine. And again, this is such a short blip that I'm able to share with you. I could talk for hours, but I'm going to stop there so we can keep moving as well. So back to you, Dwayne.
Tim, thank you for sharing both the short-term and the long-term needs that they have. I think that's really important because of the standard that LWR is responding to. We had a chance to meet with some of the program and field staff, and Fred and some of his team to talk about what's happening there and how we can address those needs. So I want to just pause for a second and just thank the generosity and support we continue to get to be able to provide those kits, to be able to help in the container cities, to be able to purchase mobile clinics. So thank you for, it's good to see that they're in use, and it's good that we're helping people. How are the kids handling this crisis? What's happening with the children in Turkey and Ukraine?
You want to say kids are resilient, right? That they'll recover. And I believe they will, but they don't recover on their own, or if you just leave them to their own devices and trust they'll grow out of it, so to speak, right? I mean, you have kids that are running from bombs. You have kids that are lost parents in earthquake or siblings. It really is, it's overused, but it is heartbreaking. I wish I had a better word for it. So some of the ways in which we're helping youth through this, here you can see we got to spend a day in a sanatorium, which is a Eastern European, I guess you could say, long-term health and wellness spa, generally designed for use of warmer or summer months for people to come out and recuperate. And now they're being used to house internally displaced people. So people who have fled their homes, but haven't fled their country. So the one we got to see, I believe, was housing about 250 people. A lot of elderly people, and I think there were, I wish I remembered off the top of my head, 25 youth. And here we were doing art therapy with them. Your funding, if we go back real quick, was helping to bring in art teachers to create these traditional dolls that were designed to bring in good spirits into their home. And so it really was a beautiful thing to be able to do. Because there are stories that we need to help kids deal with that you see here of Diana and her grandma, Lydia. Diana was visiting her grandma at the time the war broke out. And because of that, she couldn't return to her parents. And so she has had to flee with her grandma. And at one point, they actually fled into the woods, hid out in a ranger cabin, and had to live off fish that they fished out of the nearby river. The occupation eventually ended, and this is all the story that Lydia, the grandmother, is telling us. They returned home, but the home was destroyed. Bombing is still going on, so they finally found refuge in that sanatorium, and Lydia was part of that art therapy that we just saw a picture of. Like I said, the stories are just one after another. The next one you hear is as bad as the last one, or worse though. And in fact, you can see there's the picture of Lydia on the left side of the screen holding a picture of her oldest son who went off to fight in the war and will not be returning home. But because of your generosity, because of your love, you are giving Lydia, you're giving Diana, you're giving so many other people a place to stay and a place to live. Just one, Diana and Nikita, her little friend, that they were inseparable, that we saw them there together.
Tim, wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Listen, as our time draws to a close, I want to thank you for sharing, first of all, Tim. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your heart. But if I got to say, hey, what are some of the things that if you wanted to share with our donors, our family, our staff, what are those things? What did people share? What are those things that are on your heart that, hey, I just want to make sure you know this before we go?
I don't know if you can say a refrain that I continually heard over and over again when we were with people, whether it was delivering the food pack, as you saw at the beginning to Sinai, whether it was delivering a quilt, that we got to do that in previously Russian occupied territory, whether it was, any number of things, people always said, thank you for remembering us. Whatever tangible thing they received, absolutely necessary and life-saving. But right along with that was, thank you for remembering. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for not thank you for not forgetting and for doing something, right? I think people understand we live half a world away.
Yeah.
It would be easy to ignore, avoid, right? We all know the saying, ignorance is bliss, not know about. But they also know that there's people out there that are doing what they can to bring relief and to bring help and to share their love, to live out their faith. You know, there's one quote from a mom that we had given a quilt to, and maybe I'll just end with this. She had said, and this is about the quilt, but I really think it goes with everything that have been said, that have been given. They have put their soul, energy, and time in this. I would like to thank them for that very much. Really, this blanket is of value, not only practical, but spiritual. My son and I will snuggle up in the winter and keep ourselves warm under this blanket. This will fill us with the faith that people in America believe in us and they pray for us. They may be in another continent, but spiritually, they will always be with us. So I think there's that connection that that people feel when they receive whatever kind of service it is. They know they're not alone.
Yeah. Tim, again, thank you. Tonight was just the purpose of tonight was just to share some intimate stories that's happening in the field of Turkey and Ukraine, and just remember that, this is happening here and we're seeing that, but our humanitarian reach is in other countries as well. A few that come to mind right now is Mali. Pray for the people of Mali and Yemen. I would just say, as an organization, as donors, as partners, we just need to continue to pray for our friends who are facing hardships. And tonight there's no ask, there's nothing there. But I am challenging. I'm challenging our devoted Lutheran partners. I'm challenging us to say, hey, what can I do? What could I do? How could I be a part of this humanitarian response, this campaign? So I'm asking you to do a couple of things. I'm asking you if you would consider talking to your donor advisor. They'll be following up with you to answer questions. They'll be following up by email. You might receive something in the mail that's going on, but we are really trying to be in a position to respond and continue to respond in Turkey and Ukraine, step up and respond in areas that were needed, because that's what we do. And we've always done that, and we want to stand in the position to do that. And I'm just grateful to work and serve at organizations dedicated to working on the ground, dealing with natural disasters and conflicts and emergencies. And we've been able to do all of that because of the generosity of our donors. So thank you for that. Tim, I thank you for sharing your heart. I know if there are some congregational questions or anything, people can reach out to you. But would you mind kind of closing our time with a word of prayer for our friends abroad and our partners as well?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Lord, the world doesn't work right. There is injustice and suffering and poverty and war and chaos all around us. It can be in our own homes and our own hearts. It can be halfway across the world. We ask that whatever blinders we might have on, that they are removed, and you might compel us to act. Act in a way in which we are able, in which we are given gifts and skills to use, however that might look, wherever that might be. It might be in a local organization, it might be continuing a partnership with LWR, it might be bringing a meal to a neighbor next door who's having a hard time. But we ask that you open our eyes to the pain in the world and open our hearts so we might move toward it. As we look forward to the day in which all will be made right and only love and joy and peace will be experienced and known. All the things we ask for in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Tim. Thank you, friends and partners. Have a great night.